Hello, world. Okay, so my name is Stu.
Hi, Stu.
That's the best part ever. We're really proud to see how far these Fireflies have come. In 9 short weeks, they have come from, I want to say, barely understanding what an editor is, but that's not really true. But it sounds really good, to being able to develop and work together as a team and build web apps, right? So this is a really proud day for them. I'm really proud of these guys and ladies, the folks. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Team Active Schema. And those of you that have programmed a little bit and made web applications know how difficult it is to develop a schema and keep your migrations going. These folks can help you.
Hi everybody, we're Team Active Schema. My name is Brenda. I'll be introducing the rest of our group here. Over to my far right, we have Tom Norian. Tom, during his time at DBC, loved to make fun programs using JavaScript. Next to Tom, we have Zakai Robbins. Zakai is really passionate about interactive audio. And then right here, next to me, is our team lead, David, who I'm turning it over to now.
All right, so we're here to talk a little bit about our application, Active Schema. Throughout your careers here at DBC, and hopefully far into the future, you'll all have a chance to work with databases. And one of the tools that we use here is SQL Designer. My experience with that back in phase 1 was I into the assessment, had my schema built, and about 5 minutes left, and I hit the back button, and everything was gone. So frantically panicked and got it all keyed back in, and that really started my passion to say, you know what? We make beautiful things, but that's not beautiful. We can do better. So that brings us to Active Schema Designer, which we're going to go ahead and take a look at a little bit now. So our application allows you to log in, so users can come back and see the projects that they've already built. They can go back and work on them. So we'll take a look. Let's look at David's blog. So we started working on this. We didn't get quite finished. You can see we have 2 tables created there with the fields. Feels a little bit, looks a little bit like SQL Designer at this time. But we'll go ahead and add another table there. So we're going to bring some users so that we can know the people that are accessing that. So we can add that, and then we can give fields to the user, and we give a name and an email address. So you can go through that, and if you look, there's a little wrench there. You'll actually also be able to click on that and add validations. A little punch through there right now. I hadn't created the table. So there we go. We have our users table. Just as easily, we can go ahead and let's go ahead and create some relationships there. So a user has many posts. User and post. And there we go. We have another relationship created. So just as simple as that is. We're going to jump over and let's take a look at some other projects. So we have like DBC student roster. So you can create our more challenging projects with multiple information. And you can see we rearranged anything there. If you go ahead and hit the refresh button there, there we go. It's persisting your information automatically as you're creating the item. Okay, I'm like, wait, did it change? But we can go back and look at some other projects there, and you know, if you're working on, say, Little Twitter, you can also do the more complex relationships there with followers and followees. And then the really cool part is if you press that button right there in the middle, and there we go. You get this little file there, and now your migrations are done. You don't have to do anything. So no cheating in phase 2. You can't use it. So that is Active Schema Designer. The technologies we use to build this, we focused on Rails, jQuery, and jQuery UI. We had intended to bring in some other libraries to do that, but I'm going to turn it over to Sky to tell you a little bit about that.
Thanks, Dave. So initially, we have this really cool-looking JavaScript library called Joint.js, and it's designed specifically for creating tables and diagrams. thought it looked good, but as we dug into it, we found that like the core functionality that we really needed out of it wasn't in the open source version. They wanted you to pay for that. So we had to rethink our approach, and we decided to focus on just the core technologies that they teach us here at DBC. We just wanted to bring out their full potential and really dig into them and get to know them. And we found that we were able to accomplish everything we wanted to do using just Rails jQuery, which was a really excellent surprise for us. So another challenge that we had to overcome was the tightly knit nature of our application. In active agile web development, what we generally like to do is slice a project up and give each team member an independent feature of the program to develop. But our active schema designer just has a lot of feature dependencies. So we had to develop a team dynamic that would allow us to work together in the same space without stepping on each other's toes. So what we decided to do was to focus on communication and collaboration. We worked in really close proximity, pairing a lot, always talking about what we're doing and when we're doing it, and just providing each other with a lot of support so that everyone is contributing all at the same time. We also had to focus a lot on our Git workflow. Everyone in the phase 2, phase 1, really can't stress it enough. We had a lot of team merges, a lot of just being very careful, and a lot of preparation to make sure that when we're all making simultaneous changes to the same files, nothing goes wrong. So ultimately, the approach helped us be really successful in making an application we're really excited about. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to talk about the future of Active Schema Designer.
Great, thank you, Sakai. We're proud. We're proud to do what we think is taking a strong step forward, creating a real alternative to a widely used web tool. With the ability to save, you get a lot of things that David showed, the ability to go back to work in progress. One of the future implementations we're going to do is to push a button and be able to share via PDF very quickly. Another thing that's going to happen very near term is going to be putting in the keyboard shortcuts, so you could do the entire application with keyboard only. As an alternative for people who like the mouse, we're going to have a right click and inline editing of the table forms. Yeah, we hope this is a contribution to the open source community. The project is up on GitHub. We look forward to pull requests from all of you. And thank you. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Any questions about anything?
Where is it? Where can I use it?
So it is currently hosted on Heroku at activeschema.heroku.app or
HerokuApp.com.
HerokuApp.com. Sorry, thank you. And it is available. Yes.
After you designed the schema, how did you download it? How did you format the editor to have all that information and like with the correct formatting and all that?
As far as the for the migration?
Yeah.
Yep, so it's done through ERB files. So it goes through, renders all your variables in an ERB file, and then say it exports that.
What's the advantage of using this versus DBC Schema Designer?
So all of your data and all of the work that you do there is persisted immediately. If you inadvertently close the window at any moment, your data is there. As you move things around on the screen, the data is saved and stored immediately. On top of that, it does support in building those migrations and models for you. The challenge is, in a developmental standpoint, they probably should be writing those right on their own at first, but it'll help in the future. So.
The SQL Designer doesn't support Postgres.
Yes.
Oh, are there any plans to have export to SQL? Because I imagine that would really open this up for a lot of people to use.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and just as Brenda said, it's to be able to support multiple platforms. It is easily scaled and add whatever functionality we can to it.
Do you guys support polymorphism in there?
At this time, it doesn't, but you can as soon as you write that post request. Pull request. Thank you. anything else? All right, well, thank y'all very much.
Your project's sick.
So those of you who are students here may have noticed that you don't have to look at too much code. And sometimes you may want to look at more code. And when that situation occurs, and you just need more code to look at, Team Codex is there. They can help you.
So as Stu just mentioned, we are Team Codex. My name is Ben Ogilvie. I'm joined on stage by Jason Shu, Michael Ashby, and Rajul Patel. So to start things off, I guess I'd go into a little backstory about the genesis of the idea of this application was. A lot of people in this room are here because they wanted to learn how to program. And the more I learned here at DBC, I learned that there's many different methods that you can, many different ways of going about learning code. You can read tutorials, you can do some coding yourself, but one of the more underutilized ways of doing that is by reading other people's code, reading quality code. And when I felt that urge, or when people gave me that piece of advice, I thought to myself, where can I get my hands on some good code? So we decided to build an app to do just that. It's called Codex, and Jason's going to walk you through a standard user experience to show you some of the basic functionality. So he's already registered before. He's going to go ahead and log in. And the first thing that you would do as a new user to this application would be to create a study plan. So you'll see here he has the ability to input topic or language. Let's say, for instance, he's more interested in JavaScript. And he's had enough of Sinatra. He wants to start learning some other stack. So let's say he wants to learn more about Node. You'll see there at the bottom that he has the ability to be notified either by text message or by email of his study plan. So the idea is not only do you create plans that have examples of good code, but you're also keeping yourself to task, receiving regular notifications, daily doses of code for you to read. So let's, you can choose email as a method, but I think in this case, I'd rather choose text messaging. All you have to do is just drop your phone number in there.
Can you zoom in, please?
Sure. Click create. That is going to speak with GitHub and give you your fresh dose of code. So right here is that's a notification from Twilio saying that my plan's been created. And so you see here a stack of cards. The default serving size is 5 repos per day. In this case, each card has the information pulled from GitHub. You can notice, for those of you who are more familiar with GitHub, we wanted to not just serve you random examples of code, but quality samples of code. So part of what we did to filter the results to make sure that you get something that's worthwhile is indicated by the number of stars there. People that have favorited the repo is something they'd like to watch, and also the number of forks people have decided that they'd like to play around with that code base is something they're interested in. There's the description as well as the time that the repository was last updated, because if you're trying to learn the newest technologies, you want to view examples of code that are being regularly updated. So if you click on any of those links there, it takes you to the repository on GitHub or the specific project page. If you were more interested in, say, the author of a particular repository you saw previously, you can go find out more information that way. So part of the natural flow of this app is, again, as I mentioned before, staying on task and making a regular habit of reading other people's code. So normally you would have to wait until, say, the next day or the next week to get your next batch, but in this case, we're just going to simulate that by clicking the demo button. For those of you who are actually reading the cards earlier, this is a fresh dose of 5 new cards. If you saw something that you liked that you wanted to see from a previous serving, you can just click on Show Previous Cards and it brings up everything you've been served up to that point for that plan. So if you're trying to learn code, use Codex. A lot of different technologies went to making this application possible. To tell you a little bit more about those technologies, Michael Ashby is going to talk to that.
Thank you very much. So, one of our goals in building this was we wanted to build a really nice user experience. And it was really important that the interface be clean and simple and intuitive. And so we tried to let that be what guided all of our technology decisions. Our backend is Rails, it's kind of standard issue DBC backend. Phase 1, Phase 2, you'll know it well enough pretty soon. Our front end is Materialize UI. That was a new technology for all of us, and that's how we were able to get the really nice forms, the animations. Of course, there's a pretty significant amount of custom jQuery and CSS to get it to work the way we wanted. But, and one more technology I want to talk about, something that was kind of my biggest challenge with it, was working with the GitHub API. Now, GitHub does make a pretty good Rails gem, but we were getting a lot of information and trying to really sort through it and make sure that we were serving kind of useful repositories to your search. And that's just one of we had to use several APIs to get this going. And actually, Jason's going to tell you some more about the other external services.
Hi everyone, I'm Jason. So we used 3 APIs for our project: GitHub, Twilio, and SendGrid. And all of these worked in a similar way. We had JSON and we sent that to the API endpoint, and that API executed an action for us. For Twilio, it was sending that text message you just saw with Ben's phone. For SendGrid, it's sending an email to the email you specify. And we wrote all of this code in Ruby in our controller. So we specified who the email was sending to and content of the email, as well as who the text message was sent to and the content. And we could have included a lot more headers and parameters as well. We used gems like Twilio Ruby and SendGrid Ruby to convert that Ruby code into JSON, which is used widely on the internet. And that JSON got sent to the API endpoint, for example, Twilio's API. And that endpoint sent the text message to Ben's phone, or would send the email to an email address. And all this took a ton of work. We had over 232 commits. To talk to you more about the challenges we faced and what we accomplished, here's Rajal Patel.
Thanks very much, Jason. So our biggest challenge is to maintain our core functionality and the purpose of this project. We have attempted so many different technologies, but didn't have time to include it in there. So the technologies we attempted are called cron jobs. What that does is it schedules all of our notifications and other APIs, including Google Calendar API, and to make the email templates into the more user-friendly format. And next challenge is to get workflow. This is one of our most common challenges. We use the branch called dev. This is where our prototype of our API is. The master is an occasional zone where we merge occasionally, and many features are branched out into different branches, one feature per branch. And we use that Git workflow to organize our team projects. We have so many different so many technologies to communicate each other to make sure that we're on task, including Slack, which is used for external communication. Trello for task management. This is where we organize all of our features and to see which features we need to work on this day. And GitHub is for project location. And I will leave you back to Ben.
Great. So that was Codex, and thank you all for your time. We have about a minute for questions.
Would all users get the same 5 cards per week if they are choosing the same language, or is it randomized per user?
At the moment, yes, everybody would get the same cards, but that's not the intended functionality. What we got working for the demo, it's pretty deterministic, but the idea is that it would be not random, but semi-random. Yeah.
Where is it? Can I go on?
Right now, we have a version of it on Heroku. All right, we're done.
Thank you very much.
So I know that none of your students here have ever had a crummy pairing experience. Every pair is always perfect and really great and really easy. To that end, because that problem doesn't exist, Team Pair Us will come to your aid.
Hi everybody, I'm Eric, that's Daniel, that's James, and that's Tariq, and we're Paris. So imagine you just discovered this new amazing thing, whether it be programming or cycling or rock climbing, whatever it may be. Like, how do you go about finding out more about that topic? Most people would say, I'm going to go to a meetup, or I'm going to create a doodle board. But those technologies are really meant for one opportunity in a very large group. So what you're missing is the peer-to-peer opportunity, the ability to talk to someone one-on-one and gain information on the topic. So what Paris will allow you to do, and that's us, is it'll allow you to input your schedule and input the topic you want to learn, and it will find pairs for you. Based on your schedule and based on the topic you chose, it'll find other people who are interested in the same things. And then it's going to go through our demo.
So this is our website. We're already logged in and we're at the user profile page. So we have a calendar where we can set our availabilities. So let's set our schedule. And then we can click create schedule to set the times, and we can see the available times right here. And so we can create a new group. Let's just call it SF Fireflies. So now that group's created, and we can add a topic like Rails asset pipeline. So now we're inside of the group, and we have a share link, so we can send that link out to our friends, and they can join our group. So let's copy that link, and we can add some new topics like controllers, and maybe RESTful routes. Great, so now we have our topics, and we can click on these buttons to indicate that we want to pair on those topics and click on Find Pairs. Obviously, we're not going to have any pairs right now because there's no one else in the group. So let's log out and assume that we sent out the link in an email, and Eric just got it. Whoops. So let's paste that into the browser, and so Eric can sign up. So let's sign him up. We've got a lot of validation, so bear with me. So as you can see, he's already been pre-populated into that group, and so we can set his schedule. Create schedule, there's the available times. Let's go into the group. We can set the topics that we want to pair on. Click Find Pairs, and here are all the pairs that we have to choose from, which are basically just combinations of the other users, the dates, and the topics that we can pair on. So we can either click Select Pair or Skip. Now Eric's going to talk about our mobile app.
All right, so we originally thought, okay, so we can build a Rails app, and it would work great. But what we really were interested in is being able to find pairs wherever you're at. So we decided to make this app as mobile. So I'm going to connect to our screen here, and you can see this is the mobile app. So it's right now it's a black screen, but you can log in, and you can instantly view the topics that you have available. You can check the topics you actually want to find pairs for, say asset pipeline, controller, Rails, and then you can hit this pairing button at the top. That's our logo, and it will take you to this page where you can find potential pairs. It's kind of like a Tinder interface where you swipe left. And
you're swiping on the time, not the person.
And they're like, oh, this time works for me. So I'm gonna swipe right and pair with that person. You can also view your schedule on the app. So these are the times I set for my availability, and you can also view your previous pairs. We're going to go back to Daniel and talk about our schema.
So this is our schema. It's pretty complicated. We nicknamed it the Kraken. And so it kind of starts with the users, and everything else branches off of that, like groups, topics, user-selected topics, and hours. And those all kind of combine into an availability. And if two users have the same availability, then that creates a potential pair. And if both people swipe right on a potential pair, then we have a match, and the people will be sent an email of that match, and then they can pair. So now I'm going to turn it over to James to talk about technology.
All right. So for both our web app and the API that serves the iOS app, we use tried and true Rails. We use Postgres database, of course. It works nicely with that and Heroku. For the iOS app, we use Xcode 7.1 and 7 at first. We wrote it in Swift 2, which came out unfortunately the day after pitches, or the day before pitches. And then we hosted it, or we deployed it to iOS 9.1. Which is why we use Xcode 7.1. Yeah. Anyway, so as far as we also use Slack to keep in communications. We weren't always all here, and then we use Trello to keep track of what we needed to do when. As far as team dynamic, in order to keep everything kind of friendly and keep us on good terms, we tried to change our environment as much as possible, either in different rooms at DBC, going out to coffee shops, and then we also had a hotel for a while, so it's kind of an easy place to escape to, which turned out to be very nice. And then we started off working all together on the database to try to kind of work on creating the Kraken. And then we sort of eventually split off into an iOS team and a web app team, which we had to create two separate Git repositories for. And Eric will tell you about all of our Git.
So our biggest worry with Git was definitely merge conflicts. So the first thing we did is kind of like the schema, we made a development branch, and we only ever pushed or pulled to the development branch. That helped us minimize conflicts a lot. I really recommend it if you're running into conflicts to try and use this approach. And yeah, that was basically our Git workflow. Push to development, pull from development, and only push to master at the very end when you're ready. But that said, we did have a few hiccups, and we're going to turn it over to Tariq, and he's going to close us out.
Hi, I'm Tariq. I'm going to talk about the blockers and the successes. There were a few blockers. Like for one, we had the Kraken, which was we had to do some pretty complex queries on that. And so because we had two apps, we had an iOS app and a web app, that delayed that development a little bit. One of the second blockers was that we used really bleeding edge technologies. We used, Xcode 7.1, iOS 9.1, Swift 2. And when you're using bleeding edge technologies, there's really no documentation for that. Basically, we had to go back and look for tutorials that work in different language and translate them into the languages and the technology that we were using. We had to go to a lot of documentation. We had to do a lot of things from scratch, which was caused a little bit of delays. But there were some successes as well. There are some times when we thought of when we had complex issues to solve, but we found simple solutions for them. We came together as a group. We decided together, we figured out ways to solve them simply. I think at this point, we're all really confident about taking on challenging projects in the future because we did so much from scratch and we solved so many problems. As well as our calendar. That calendar, we had to basically create that calendar from scratch. We looked for APIs and other things like date pickers from different frameworks, but then none of them really satisfied what we needed. We needed to select multiple dates all at once and post them all at the same time. And a lot of those other tools wanted to do it one at a time. As far as successes, I would say that we created an app. We created another app in a brand new language that was brand new to all of us. and we created the API to communicate between each other, between the two. And so we're really proud of that as a team. As far as the future, I think that there are some really good synergies. We're a team app. We help bring people in that team together. And I think Meetup integration and Slack integration are pretty good opportunities for us. And it's also because it's pretty simple, it has a lot of flexibility. You can create your own teams from different topics. You can do a lot of different things like that. And if anyone has any questions, we'd like to hear them.
Why did you guys use Swift for iOS? Like, what was the thought process?
Well, we had to use it on equipment that we had, and so we're using his phone, which is, he downloaded all the newest stuff, and so we kind of had to use that.
I'm wondering what your strategy was for learning Swift and any advice you would have for phase tours who might want to
Don't upgrade to Expo 7.
I can tell you, I spent a lot of time looking for tutorials. Look for the best tutorials you can find, and then figure out what the differences are, and figure out what you want to do, and Google that thing specifically, and then look for a tutorial that does that. That was the most helpful for me.
And Apple actually does have a really good documentation for their work. I mean, you have to be pretty experienced in like reading through it because it's high level concepts. But if you can grasp just like having a Ruby background or having a JavaScript background, if you have that, it's easier to grasp the Apple's documentation. For sure.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're hanging out at the back and you want to come and sit down, come and sit down. So, wow, what a great project. This is going so well, get it? So sometimes, ready? Sometimes you're bored.
Hey, what's up, little guy?
Dude, I'm so bored right now.
Ah, I know. Dude, you gotta come check out the game.
The game?
Yeah, the game.
What's the game?
Just come look at this.
Oh, the game. I get it now.
Dude, let's get you logged in.
Wait, is that Google and Facebook on?
Yes, it is.
Wow, I'm somewhat impressed. What's this right here?
Oh, this is where you could choose a room. So it's a multiplayer game where you can either jump in someone's game or we could start our own. What do you want to do?
Let's join someone else's game.
Let's jump in.
Oh, cool, the game. How do you play?
So this works. You can use left to move or right or press up to jump and use the cursor to shoot.
Oh, does this use some game arcade physics?
Yeah, man, it really does. Some complicated stuff.
What's happening?
Oh, I forgot to tell you. It's a multiplayer game that uses socket.io.
Wait, did you say socket.io?
I did.
The JavaScript library that allows web application to communicate between web server?
That's socket.io.
What's up, guys? Oh, is this the game?
Yeah, sure, man. Help us kill this guy.
And that's the game, guys.
So that concludes our quick little demo of the game. But before we introduce or get a little bit more into the game, I'd like to introduce the team behind the game. So first off, I'll introduce our team lead, Cameron, aka Bash 'em Smash 'em. And then we have our front-end masters, which is Phil, aka Philly Cheese, and Kevin, aka K3 Evan. And on the back end, we have Mark, aka Kim Chipotle, and myself, Arturo, aka Duro Dale Duro. And so first, I'd like to get into the technologies we use, but I'll let our team lead take over that.
So at DBC, we focus on learning a lot of new technologies, and especially in phase 3, one of the things that you really learn is just how to learn new technologies. We decided to kind of take that to an extreme and have a stack that was completely new to us. So on the front end, for the game itself, we used something called Phaser, which is a JavaScript game library, and we also learned how to use Grunt in order to compile all of our files into a single game. On the back end, we used Node with Express for the site, and we also used MongoDB for our database. For the communication between the players and the server, we used Socket.io. All of these new technologies really led us to have a workflow that was slightly different than other projects' workflows as far as we could tell. So Mark is going to speak to that a bit.
Thanks, Cameron. As Cameron said, for this particular project, we had to learn many different technologies. So we thought, as a team, we decided to use horizontal slicing rather than vertical slicing. So we divided our team to front end and back end part. So 2 of us worked on the front end part to work on the game features, and the other 2 work on the back end for database and user login, also Socket.io. And Cameron was in the middle to make sure everyone can communicate. And as a team, we also had a great workflow. We had a master branch that contained the best working version of the game. And from the master branch, we branched out to the development branch. It's like a safety net where you make sure that everything works fine before we push our stuff to the master branch. And from the development branch, we also branched out to many feature branches to work on specific features. For example, homepage branch, auth branch, and multiplayer branch. And now Philip will talk more about our team dynamics behind our workflow.
Thanks, Mark. So most of our time was spent pair programming, just to get quickly acclimated with the new tech that we're taking on. Trust in a group setting, that was pretty important for our group. Since we did a horizontal slice, it was important to know that, it's important to know that everyone was progressing carefully and they were doing their parts, and that everything was integrated completely. So we did frequent check-ins, and in horizontal slicing, again, you're splitting off the front end and the back end. So it's important to know where everyone's at, and so that you can go back onto the same track together. So, and we had team stay awake overs, which we did quite frequently. We did team coffee for the mind in order to, we were highly caffeinated. Team ping pong for the body, just to get the blood flowing. And team dungeon boss for the soul. And Dungeon Boss is a mobile app game that we all downloaded just for a group, just as a group thing. And not to brag or anything, guys, but I'm already level 27. I'll throw it out to a part now. So.
Yeah, so, picking up all this new tech, we definitely had a lot of hurdles. So, I mean, some of the major hurdles we had was just, just obviously the time period, but not only that is trying to pick up these new technologies, and not only not going into something that you don't know, you have to take at least a day or 2 to really just try them out and really choose what you want to do. So after we did that, we finally set out on what we wanted to do. So just going into a couple of days late into choosing the MVP, we were able to set out what we wanted to do. But another hard part we struggled with was just getting all these new technologies and just really combining them together at the end. But finally at the end, we were able to do that, and we had some successes come in. But I'll let Kevin talk about those.
Thanks, Art. So yeah, most of our hurdle was just facing the unknown. We weren't sure how to make a game, or no one had prior experience to create one. And because of that, we had a lot of hurdles. But we took those hurdles and we turned it to success. We all learned new technology, at least each of us learned 1 or 2. Poor Cameron had to learn all 5. And we were able to combine them together seamlessly. So yeah, we made a game, so booyah! And we created a 2D side-scroller multiplayer platform game in real time, which allowed other players to play with others. And that pretty much ends our presentation of the game. We are the game, and hopefully someday I'll see you guys play the game.
have a little Q&A.
Hey, so you guys have that new create new game feature. Does that mean that people can create like custom platforms and stuff? And is that feature available right now?
So
currently, no. Currently, you can create separate rooms so that you're not playing in the same room as all of DBC. New instances of the same map. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the complexities of a multiplayer, like anything?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, feel free to jump in, anybody. But I mean, one thing you do have to mess with is arcade physics. So like, it's something that I realized was like, wait, hold on, I have to do a bunch of math to jump and make the character move. That's something that like, you do have to take account for. And then you can build as much as you want on the client side. So when you're making the browser, so if you made this a single player game, you could probably do more. But the fact that we have multiplayer, we have other players come in and jump in. You also have to let the server know, like, hey, we have this player that come in. Hey, we have this player that shot. We have this player that jumped. We have this player that got killed. You know what I mean? All these little complexities and just the server running like every so often. How many times do we have the server running?
30 times.
Like 30 times a second. So yeah, so like making all that, there's definitely a lot to it.
There's a lot of trickery on the client side to make you believe that it's really fully real time when there is going to be a lag no matter what.
How did you clean up some of that lag and like make it more efficient?
So refreshing faster is always nice, but also there are things you can do like tweening on the client side. So between positions that you were given by the server for like a different player or for another player, you can kind of just animate where they are going, and that's the main thing.
And also presenting with the newer laptop helps out too.
Where can we find the game to play it?
Currently it's on GitHub. We're hoping to push it up to Heroku, possibly with a few more features beforehand.
I'm wondering, so I think it's cool how you guys learned so many different technologies and split it up. I'm wondering why you had to learn all 5. Is that like a necessary thing? Is there always one guy who has to know all the technologies?
No, not necessarily, but I was kind of stitching together the front end and back end, and so I had to know a little bit of everything in order to be able to understand the code. And anyway, that's all our time. So thank you guys very much.
Well, not all of our teams get to stay in a hotel, but some of them do. And those of you who stayed in hotels recently may have noticed that hotel technology is stuck in the 1980s, right? Life would be a lot better if you could live in luxury with Lux.
You know what I did last night?
Nope.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was incredible. I spent the last few weeks busting my butt at work, working morning, noon, and night, trying to meet the deadline for that project. And yesterday, I finally had nothing to do. So I decided to treat myself. Went to my favorite local hotel in San Francisco. I checked in. As I was checking in, the guest attendant told me we have some new software we'd like to talk about. It helps with our user experience. As soon as you get to your room, you get a text message, and you'll be able to have any services that you'd need sent to your phone. I got off the elevator and got this great text message. I clicked on the link, and it took me to a portal for my room. Everything that I needed, every service that the hotel had, was there for me at my own fingertips. I dropped my bags, flopped down on the bed, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be bothered for the rest of the day. So I scheduled my room cleaning to be done the very next day in the morning. After I woke up, maybe the afternoon, who knows. I had my car brought to the valet. I wanted to be ready when I was getting ready to check out, so I scheduled that as well. I got a great text message onto my phone. What was even better was that not only did I get a text message, but I also got something on my Google Calendar set up that told me that I had my room cleaning at what time and my valet service at what time. Not only was that great for me, but because this is hotel software, the hotel themselves have their calendar where every single room, when they schedule a service, they can see what room scheduled what service, and it's set up for them in their own background calendar. It was a great night. Happy, I didn't have to do anything, I didn't have to worry about anybody else, and I got to relax fine. I got to be happy, I got to live happy, I got to live well, I got to live well. I'm going to introduce our fearless leader, Zoe Ingram.
Hi guys, I'm Zoe. This is my incredible team. This is Anuja, Jared, Kuman, and Aaron. So to build Lux, we kind of went on a different path than what we've done here at Dev Bootcamp. In group projects, we try to do like vertical slicing, where each person or pair takes a feature and builds it from the bottom up. But for Lux, we wanted to integrate a lot of new technologies. We used AngularJS in the front, and in the back end, we used Rails, Redis, and Sidekick. So we had to split up the work horizontally. So Aaron and I took the front, and these amazing people took the back. And Jared's going to talk about our servers.
So one of the things we wanted to do for user experience was implementing text messages and the Google Calendar. That's what's important with our app. I mean, we wouldn't be anything without that. So we could do that on the client side, on the Rails server, but that's not the best way to do it. The best way to do that is to take those jobs and put them on a separate server so it doesn't block the client experience. When you put those extra features on your route, you're relying on them to work. And when they don't, they can break your stuff. And so when you take them off, you allow for the user experience to move on and them to not know what's going on in the back end, but we can be trying the jobs on the back until they succeed. We had to configure Redis and Sidekick. Sidekick is a copy of our app that's running, and it's just listening for those methods to be called, and then it's sending it to the Redis server to complete them, and then it sends it back to our app, notifying you. And I had to work a lot with Anuja to schedule the calendar, so I'm going to pass it on to her to let her talk about that.
So to create a user experience which is seamless, we have to make sure that this connectivity between the Google API calendar and our app is through server to server, and so that whenever there's a service created, it goes directly to the agenda of hotel and on hotel's calendar. Zoe and Erin will talk more about AngularJS.
Yeah, so we decided to implement Angular to really make the page responsive and quick. And Aaron and I had never touched Angular, so we took 48 hours to try and get that done. But learning Angular wasn't really the struggle, it was integrating Angular with Rails. So to do this, we tried a few different things. We had gems, we tried to embed the script directly, but eventually we had to use the asset pipeline in Rails. So Aaron's going to talk about how we did that.
So we used Bower to manage our asset pipeline. So these are all of our third-party libraries, and we don't have to have script tags or anything like that because we install them all through Bower. And then we pull in all of our JS files with this require tree, and just a couple of these require statements. So we had a lot of asset pipeline going on, but once we figured it out, it actually boiled down to just a little bit of code. And then the feature you guys saw demoed earlier, this is an accordion, and that is managed by a controller for that. And then we've got a scheduling feature here. And then you guys saw here, there was something that popped up as a notification. So those each have their own controllers. So these are two examples of what the controllers look like. And just for the example of the alert, that alert comes from here and it's pushed through out to the space right there. And then Kuman's going to talk a little bit about how our project went, the success and the failures.
So we set out pretty early to make sure that we had an MVP ready by Sunday night. So a few days in, that we'd have at least something that was working that we could call around. We got that done by Sunday afternoon. We actually were ahead of schedule on that one. In doing that, that was probably because we divided our team's perspectives, as Zoe was saying, with our front end and back end. We had Zoe and Eric running on the front end, and we had the three of us doing the back end. And we really met probably about 4 days in to kind of merge everything together. It worked out really well because of our communication and our team bonding. Every morning we went out and got coffee together. Every lunchtime we got lunch together. We were usually here pretty late working on everything. One of our great successes, which was, again, thanks to Zoe and Aaron with their Angular. They literally learned that in a few days, and they knocked it out the park, which really made our site look the way that it does, which made it look so beautiful. So it's a great job by them. Some of the struggles that we had with the site were the AngularJS. It really wasn't learning it. It was more just really bringing it into our Rails app with Zoe's talking about the asset pipeline, actually getting it to work with the Google Calendars API, with the Sidekick, and with the Redis, and getting everything to work together. But we got all those to work. There were a few Git workflow mistakes. They weren't really major, so we got those fixed pretty quickly. And Heroku, the only issue that we really had with Heroku was we had a binary key for the calendar client ID and for the email ID for Google Calendars, and we actually had to convert that to a string in order for that to work on Heroku. So you can't push a binary key to Heroku. Well, we got that done, and I am honestly proud to have worked with this team. You guys, every one of you are superheroes, and I think that we did a great job. So thank you guys, and thank you guys. Hope you liked our app. Do we have any questions?
So before you separated the servers, did you have like it running on one server? And how fast was it running?
Yeah, so it'll run quickly on the front end server. The problem is that if Twilio fails, it'll time out your page and it'll just drop. The whole thing will crash, right? So like you're relying on those things to work all the time. So if Twilio fails, I don't care because I have it on Sidekick. So it can run in the background and try it again and try it again and try it again until it hits it, right? So the user doesn't need to know that. The user wants to know, hey, I got my job done, and hey, my display looks great, right? That's all they want, right? So we can handle the rest on the back end without the user having to worry about it. And it also adds a layer of safety for us.
If you could do it again, would you have used Angular or would you have gone as the direct?
Yeah, no, totally. It was a little painful for a couple of days, but I mean, we got to walk out of this like knowing some Angular, and yeah, that's definitely a confidence boost when we're about to graduate. So yeah, it was great to learn technology. Anything else? Cool, thank you so much.
All right, let's get all of them up here. 4 or 5 left. Come on back. All right. So we're going to do graduation. So congratulations again. One big round of applause for all the fireflies. Thank you very much for doing those amazing demos. It's really terrific. So we're going to take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll do graduation ceremony itself. And that's about it. So take a little break. Come on back. And for those, Andrew wanted to say something?
Oh, sure. Just for those who are new to the space, thanks so much for coming. And
you can stay for graduation.